Oh, okay.
No. Yes.
Patrice. Right. I'm wondering if we can get this and you somehow.
Oh, on them.
What, you don't want me? You don't want on there? You're live already. Beautiful. How about? Oh yeah, can I sit here?
What do I have to do? I'm not good at this stuff.
Posting cards and stuff while it's going on.
Suzanne Salter Sark, can you please give a heart or call out to let us know you can hear us? Somebody come up down there that says add them. Just hit add. So they're there.
They're already at. Watching is watching.
Tracy, did I say add?
Is watching.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Latrice Ferguson, and I am the parent of 2 boys at Oak Forest Elementary, and I have a daughter who is waiting, hopefully, to go to Oak Forest next year. And what I would like to do first is I think it would be nice if we each introduce ourselves and our school, just to kind of make it a little more personable. And then we'll go through basically some of our plans for the next few weeks, mainly our sprint goal, but our overall goals of what we want to accomplish. So we can start up front.
And let's keep it like 15 seconds. My name's Leah Salinas, and I have 4 kids, 3 of which are at school, Black and Oak Forest.
I'm Jennifer Krupa. I have a 2nd grader at Oak Forest with Latrice's kids, and I have a 4-year-old who has a full year before we go through this for her.
I'm Amy Maddox. I've got 2 5th graders at Travis who are hoping to go to Frank Black next year. And I have 2 8th graders at Frank Black who are still trying to figure out high school for next year.
I'm Elizabeth Arredondo. I have 2 children at Oak Forest.
I'm Christy Javert. I have a son at Frank Black and a son at Harvard Elementary.
I'm Erin Bain, and Joe and I have a daughter at Travis, and Charlotte's not quite ready yet.
I'm Katie Agostera. I have a son at Travis, a kindergartner, and another son who's 2.
I'm Sarah Dalton, and I have 2 kids at HISD, and I'm in a different district, so the 2 of us present 2 different districts.
I'm Amber Branham, and I have 2 at Oak Forest Elementary.
Hi, I'm Andy Chan, and I have 1 over at Travis High School.
Andrew Sharonson. I have a son at Barry Mills Montessori, and I'm often posting as my wife, Maggie, on Facebook.
That's hard to follow. Hi, everybody. I'm Robert Lundy. I spent the better part of the last year as a candidate for the school board to represent District 6 in the West and the Southwest. And then before that, I spent 4 years working as what's called a school support officer with HISD. So I oversaw 39 schools across the district, including Garden Oaks and Oak Forest, bunch of your schools are near and dear to me, so it's good to see some familiar faces here, and thank you for coming.
Thank you for your hard work. My name is Jessie Dirks. I live in District 5. I, similar to Robert, have been involved in the community in other ways. I don't have any children in HISD schools, but HISD, I work closely with the district as part of an education nonprofit for the last 5 years, and am excited to see the groundwork that we laid continue.
My name is Martina Stravenzel. I have 3 kids. The oldest one's a second grader at River Oaks. I'm Zoe Helms. I have a 5-year-old who's waiting to hear what happens with madness, and a 2-year-old.
Hi, I'm Wendy Matt. I have a second grader at Wilson Montessori, and we're zoned to field.
I'm Levante Patton. I'm a doctoral student working on educational leadership, and I'm also a candidate for Harris County Department of Education. My daughter is currently homeschooled because of the public system, and I feel like coming here and seeing what you guys are doing is very vital to the success of education. So I just want to make sure that I'm here to support you and do what I can to help.
Hi, I'm Brooke Mobile. I have 2 first graders and TH Rogers.
I'm Rachel Lowe. I have a kindergartner at Helms and a 10th grader at Energy.
I'm Julia Sullivan. I have a first grader at Travis, and I live in the East End.
Hi, my name is Sandra Guevara. I have 3 kids. I have 1 in Carnegie, and I have 2 in Red Elementary. And I am here to represent my communities, because I think my community and Hispanic people doesn't have any idea what's going on. And I'm trying to see what else can I do for the community.
Hi, I'm Neil Brea. I have 2 sons that attend Hayward Elementary, and I work for the field.
My name is Lorraine Albantes, and I have 2 children at Harvard.
Hi, I'm Leah Truly Nunez. I'm a first grader at Travis, and then 2 smaller children, not to get these.
I'm Berenice, and welcome to Alabama's Festival Community Center. And to Affordable Housing and Early South Special Space here. My kids are 3 and 5. They're not the 3-year-old that live in us, and my 5-year-old goes to private school because we live here. A little hard to leave the summit. So we're here to help improve the schools and do what we can so that we can.
And thank you for helping us find this.
What elementary school is it that you're going to? Jefferson.
And what elementary school is your daughter in?
Yeah. She goes to Trinity Classical Schools.
Right, part-time work.
But what one are you zoned? Are you zoned? What are you zoned to?
I'm close to Fairland. I live off of Scott in the Beltway, so I think it would be like one of the kids' schools.
Oh, okay.
On Sunnyside.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to say I can't believe how awesome this group is and how much we've grown in 2 weeks. So this group started with 4 of us, 3 Oak Forest moms and a Frank Black mom, and we saw the proposal that Sunday morning that we weren't supposed to see. But thank goodness we did, and just kind of frazzled at what this meant and what we were going to do. And so out of the haste of all that, we started this Facebook page that is enormous now. And it also opened our eyes to more than just our magnet school. And it's about more than that. And we realize that now. So this group is a diverse group of parents, community members, grandparents, potential HISD children who are curious about what changes are going to occur next year, which seem to be very drastic, and curious about how this is going to impact their lives and their schools for their children. We currently, in our group, represent about 50 different HISD schools, and we hope that continues to grow. And actually, as I'm reading this, more people are asking to join, so that is growing. And it's real important for us as ambassadors to go back to our schools, because even at my school, I was at a birthday party today, they just aren't aware of the ramifications of these changes, and it's important for us to be that voice. And as that happens, like this weekend, a huge amount of people asked to join, and they are all asking to be educated on what's occurring. We are not a pack, although some people would like for us to be. Who knows what will happen in the future, but and we are not for or against any particular elected officials. We are just supporters of our children and the education of all of our children, struggling schools, high-performing schools, and in between. That's our goal. We want a transparent HISD. We want to be a part of the decision-making and changes that occur, especially these that they want to push through so quickly. And that's the role we want to play and continue to play. And that's really easy to do with 2,500 people. If we can break off and formulate groups where we work hard together, it's already shown that we've put a wedge in this plan because it continues to change. So we need to strive forward. So our vision is to build bridges in the community and schools while maintaining magnet programs and budget accountability. And our vision has grown, and we would like to continue to be a part of improving IR schools, helping to improve in any way that we can. You know, we have educators, and our role is limited in how we can interact, but we also know that successful schools, a big role is played by the community. So if we can be a part of that, that's what we're going to try to do. Leah is going to come up now and speak to you about our mission, and then we'll talk to you about our goals and stuff.
Thank you, Latrice. So, I'm not sure if Latrice mentioned, but we have over 2,500 members in the field. Is that about right?
2,600 plus.
2,600, and it's growing every day by 50 to 100 members. So we're growing rapidly, and I think we'll continue to pick up space. So it was really important for us to try to put some parameters around what our mission is, because there's 2,600 people out there and 2,600 different views. We can't be everything to everybody, but we can try to represent as many people as we can. So what we did was we tried to come up with a mission and a vision that represents a broad range of views. And ultimately, we're for a good education experience for all kids, not just T.H. Rogers and Travis and Oak Forest, which are highly represented here today, but for all children. Because at the end of the day, I think what we've realized is that if we can't create a good quality education for all students in HISD, then the system is going to fail. It doesn't matter how great our little bubbles are. So we really have to reach outside those bubbles. So what we want to do here is just look at our mission statement broken down into really 3 key areas. The first area is building bridges in the communities and schools. We want to increase more coordination among the schools, doing events like these, reaching out, talking more, spreading ideas, increase the participation of parents, educators, community members, doctoral students, corporations, the students themselves, and ultimately lawmakers, so that all of us are involved in the decisions that are impacting our schools. And then finally, we also recognize that the reality of HISD right now is that there are schools, the improvement required, or IR schools, that are struggling, they're low performing in terms of what the state standards are, and they're on the verge of being closed. Some of them are, if they're repeatedly on this list. So that's a reality of HISD, and we can't ignore that, even though I think in the 50 or so schools that we represent, I don't know that we have a single person who's identified themselves as being from an IR school. And I don't know if there's anyone in here. So that potentially is a gap that we have right now in our group. And we recognize that we need to do something to bridge that community. We're not quite sure what it is. Maybe today in the breakout session, we'll come up with some ideas. So we want to, at the very minimum, support those schools and programs and try to reach out to them and build some bridges there. The second pillar is to achieve HISD accountability of magnet programs. HISD accountability. So at the end of the day, it is the district that we need to hold accountable for that budget. So what does this mean for us? First of all, actually, I think I misread that and skipped down. Let me try that again. HISD accountability of the magnet programs. Let's start with that one first. So on the magnet program side, there's been a lot of feedback that the program is not accessible to all students, and so we recognize that we need to improve and somehow create a process that's more fair and accessible to all students. So we'll be working on ways that we can achieve that goal. At the end of the day, we would like to maintain the magnet programs. There are many people that are in the magnet programs. We love the magnet programs. Our students thrive within them. So a fundamental pillar of this team is to maintain those magnet programs, albeit in a way that is more open and accessible to other students across the district. And then finally, we want to support reasonable implementation of new magnet programs. It seems as though the district is already on a trend to try to increase magnet programs throughout the district. We want to support that as long as it's done in a very kind of a judicious way. So finally, we also want to achieve HISD and board accountability of the budget and the implementation. So what this means here is ensuring that those who were elected to do their job or appointed to do their job with respect to the budget are doing their job. So it comes down to an effective use of budget resources and maintaining a model which enables schools to determine how those funds are used. What that second bullet means is we do have a tendency to prefer the PUA model as opposed to a centralized full-time equivalent model. Again, we aren't using those words here because we want to be open. We don't want to label ourselves as such, but we do like the idea that the PUA brings, which is it gives flexibility to the schools themselves to use those funds. And we think that has been one of the key elements of success for many programs. So that tends to be central to our thought. So that's our mission. I'm going to hand it over to Jennifer, who's going to talk about what our real short-term goal is going to be over the next probably 2 to 3 weeks.
I'm not Jennifer, but I'm going to.
Oh, okay, I lied. Back to the trees. Back to the trees.
It's a twin.
I can be Jennifer.
Okay.
We've gotten very close in the past few weeks. Okay, so we understand that there are many things that the board feels that they don't need our input on. And we do understand that part. But we realize what our strength is right now. And we have a sprint goal, basically. We have long-term goals, and IR kind of falls under the long-term goals, but our sprint goal is basically what we need to do before the next board meeting in March 8th. So our focus within the subcommittees that we set up and we'll break out to in just a moment, these are the things that we want to focus on. Get agreement to conduct performance audit, keep pushing for petition signatures, share the post within your personal Facebook friends, and then ask them to share.
Twitter.
And Twitter. I'm working on using Twitter. And what we'll be able to do now, the group is so large and there's so much communication and there are so many people who are well versed in all of this, like Andy and Tim, is doing some joint efforts of mass tweets, mass emails, mass letters, and it's really powerful. I mean, and so we'll be able to do that better with our subcommittees.
I have a question about that. I want to actually share the petition with the PTO president of River Oaks, but is that allowed because they're registered with like the national? I haven't done it yet. I'll email her personally, but I don't know what the rules are because it seems like we're pushing an agenda, right?
Yes.
So I'm a three-time PTO president.
Okay.
No, it's not allowed to directly address the PTO president because I can't consider a political agenda under this, and that's it's a 501c3.
Okay.
What you can do as an individual, make suggestions, and therefore you kind of go around that and say, I as an individual are approaching you, would you like to participate? But the PTO president cannot go in an open forum and say to their PTO, please sign this petition. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
But you can post it on your personal page.
But you can actually give it to that person and they can share it internally with their friends group, but you cannot do it in an open meeting.
So that goes for PTAs and PTOs?
That's better.
Okay.
Is there anything with 501c3 designation? You cannot do that. That's a law.
I don't know if y'all have this, but this is what we've done at both Travis and Frank Black. We have an official Facebook page for each. And then at Travis, there's something that Facebook does, I think, called a community. Like, I think that's what Facebook wants it to be. So that's where anybody can post. And the same thing, although at Frank Black we have 3 grade level groups. And it's the sort of thing where people post, hey, does anybody know what the homework is, or whatever. But also, I can post, and then I'm not posting as the PTO. I mean, any individual, but it's a group of people that
or something, because I actually pick up in the Walker line, and I talk to a lot of people. I know a lot of people at least by sight, and most of them don't know about this. So I've been spreading word of mouth, but I like to kind of hand something out because, like you, I also have never. I don't have any social media or Facebook, so I use my husband's Facebook account to look at you. I've emailed every parent email that I have at the school, but it's only been limited to the classrooms I've been exposed to. So can you give me papers to hand out? I'll do it as a personal. I mean, do you think that would be a good idea?
I'll write it down. I got
Yes,
it.
we could definitely, I think whichever team, we can do that for the media.
Okay.
The media, yeah, the media.
Get your information, we can do that for sure.
Perfect. I'll get it out.
And for things that you're unsure about, like at my school at Oak Forest, I communicate with the principal a lot. He is totally okay with me. I'm a board member, but I don't represent this as a PTA board member. And so I think as long as, I still keep the line of communication, and if they say, oh, maybe we should hold back, then I do, but sometimes it's easier to ask forgiveness for certain things.
One of the things that I also started noticing is on your Facebook page, yes, you have a lot of members, but we really need to start just posting on personal Facebook pages.
Yes.
And reaching out that way, because I started saying, this isn't just about HISD anymore, this is about the city of Houston and how it's going to affect the city of Houston.
Absolutely.
That's what it says, within your personal
And
Facebook friends. It's okay to do that.
And that's what we're hoping to achieve from this. I mean, it just grew so fast, and now you can't even find a post that you made 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So,
Well, but it's really good what you're doing on your site, because it's the documents that you can utilize on your
Right.
personal page, and you've
Right.
got that section of
right,
documents.
and it'll be easy for your friends to
Yes.
find on your own personal page.
Correct.
And so when we break up into subcommittees, then you're gonna, well, Jennifer will tell you. I'll let you. But yeah. Second, on our short-term sprint goal. So we want them to perform a performance audit. And there's been lots of arguments against it. It's too expensive, it takes too long. But regardless of what we decide this year, the responsible thing to do is conduct a performance audit, because we're gonna be faced with this for years to come, so that cannot be.
Trace, can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
Just to make sure that everyone's got the context, like, I know a lot of people have been reading it, but there's been different reasons. Is everybody familiar with what makes a performance audit distinct from like a regular financial audit? Because, or anybody not familiar?
You should review it.
Okay. So, like, the way that I always describe it to people is like comparing a financial audit and a performance audit is like Minute Clinic versus Mayo Clinic. Financial audit is about making sure that your numbers balance. It's making sure that accounts are there. A performance audit is looking at core systems and efficiencies and then providing recommendations to make sure that whatever the root causes are that are leading to budgetary issues, that there are specific action steps recommended so that you get out of the hole.
So I have it printed out, like their whole protocol. So some of the questions, just to piggyback, just because I think this will help with the point, is how does the district ensure that there is high quality instruction at each school? How are principals held accountable for being the instructional leader at their campuses? What systems are in place to provide teachers feedback regarding the results being achieved in their classrooms? How effective are the district and campus site-based decision-making committees in driving program improvements? And that's just one paragraph.
Do we know when the last performance audit?
Yes.
1995.
25 years ago. When the board went through their budget process this summer, and it was literally the last hour in the middle of the night that it was passed, one of the amendments that was thrown on was to facilitate a performance audit through something called the Legislative Budget Board.
And that's where I got this.
Yes, that's one way you can do it. And the board at that meeting passed it, and it was supposed to go. Next month. Oh,
We're streaming it.
okay.
Yeah, we're streaming.
It doesn't look like I'm speaking.
Just do this.
Okay, so the board this summer passed, voted for a legislative budget board. Literally, this was something like midnight that the budget was due. Next month comes around, there is a much smaller group of board members present that night, including the proponent of the LBB was not there that night. He happened to be out of town. And then very quickly and very quietly, there was a motion to reverse their own vote for the Legislative Budget Board. Now, in the course of the summer, every candidate who ran for one of the 6 positions on the board made an explicit public commitment to facilitate a performance audit no later than February of this year. For 5 of the 6, it's on video. It's one of the things I shared with y'all early on, because I was one of the people that did it. And there's no ambiguity there, and it's performance audit by this month. The 6th, it would have been Sergio Lira, who went through the same vetting process. It's just not on video because it happened separately. So it's not that either board members, one, that a majority hasn't already committed to it. They have. It's on video. And 2, that there's familiarity with what it entails. The key is there have been so many different potential changes thrown at once. Like literally the board got sworn in on a Thursday, and by Saturday there were proposals for a bond issue, overhaul of IR schools, change to the magnet model, centralizing, and changing the entire way that things are funded.
Well, they can slow down.
And that's where I think, to the point earlier, you got to be able to slow down and make smart decisions. Go back, you got to know where the money is and whether the budget's functional.
They don't want you to say.
Can you introduce yourself again, please?
I'm Robert Lundy. Hi.
Robert, can I ask you a question to that? So can you talk a little bit about the examples that we have of takeovers for districts that have proven through audits or otherwise that their financial or programmatic approach has not been.
Sure. So one of the conversations that's going on a lot right now is the idea of what role the state might take. And it gets confusing because all of these topics are getting sort of flooded together in the conversation. There are really 2 different ways that the state could get involved in a situation like this. One is if there is continued financial challenges. And that is basically a standing prerogative that the state has always had. So in the cases of districts like North Forest and Pendleton, in part, those were because the books didn't balance and there wasn't a clear path for how they were going to get balanced. And so the state decided they were going to exercise their authority. The larger conversation that's going on right now related to prospective takeover is over a relatively new law. In 2015, Representative Harold Dutton from here in Houston authored a piece of legislation that got pretty broad support. I want to say it was like 85% support in the legislature that said we are not going to be comfortable with schools languishing in improvement required status without districts being held accountable. And so it said if a school gets to basically 4 years or more on improvement required and there is not growth, to the point where it meets standard, TEA has a couple of options. They can, one, they could decide to close the school. They could, 2, decide to convert it to some other model. Or 3, and this is where the law did something that was unprecedented. They said the state can't take over the district. Now, the law may have been written with the idea of like, okay, a lot of our districts are 6 schools, 5 schools. We're 283. And so you're seeing a whole lot of activity right now around the fact that there's a realization that, God willing, the efforts that people are putting in to boost results up will pay off. But if they don't, the state has the right in the law to exercise its authority. And in my very biased personal opinion, this does not represent anybody but me, I think the way, in addition to the fact of how meaningful supports and improvements are being provided to those schools, there needs to be a demonstration of thoughtful governance for TEA to feel comfortable allowing us as a community to continue leading our schools. And if it feels like a lot of citizens are either, one, being thrown lots of pieces of information and feeling confused and overwhelmed, or 2, not having a voice and being able to be part of the policymaking process. TEA notices that. They are already noticing it. There was a reason why the deputy commissioner was at the community meeting at Cullen Middle School last week. They recognize that this is not just a question about IR schools. The future not only of the IR schools, but also the entire system and the city as a whole is affected. We can't make our budget work. If we don't have a financial strategy to ensure we're not in this situation in a couple of years, and if we can't find a way to manage our resources and our programs so that people feel like everybody has a voice and there's an opportunity to be part of the direction. So the takeover threat is in part financial, but it's important to note getting the budget right and knowing what our budget should look like can play a very powerful role.
How do you make the budget look right when Katrina happened? Because this is when this is all really coming to place, to be honest with you. So making a permanent decision on a temporary situation is very difficult because recapture is only because so many students came from New Orleans during that time, which put us in a bind right now. So how can you say that the finances within the next 10 years are going to remain looking the way it is now? So we're only paying back this money because of the Katrina situation. Do you predict that these students are going to remain here and most of them are already gone?
So I'm going to challenge the assertion a little bit. Because the prospect of recapture has been on the books for a number of years, and in fact, districts that were not affected by Katrina already went into recapture. So Austin went into recapture, Galveston went into recapture. That's like a larger structural change. The other point that I would put forward is we've known, there is no doubt that recapture is a part of our financial woes. Nobody's going to deny that. And there is a need for people to be advocating like hell on behalf of their legislators to say patchwork isn't good enough. But we also exacerbated this. When we went through the budget process in June, we knew that we were going into a $100 million deficit.
So we voted against recapture.
But that
now we're going back and saying, hey, let's pay it. So you have to think, Austin been paying recapture since the beginning of recapture. So they're used to this. They know they have to pay back money. So my question is Houston going to feel like they have to repay year after year after year? That's something totally different. But if you're telling me that, oh, we're going to have to pay recapture this one big lump sum and that's it, that's totally different. But if you're telling me, hey, recapture is going to continue in Houston, that's a different plane.
But I guess.
Okay, so recapture, first of all, yes, we knew about it several years ago. Part of the problem is the attrition that's going on in the city. The other part of it is the reason we re-voted was because of the way the verbiage, the way the actual
HISD put their verbiage
the way
out.
they right, the way they did it, and it was very, very confusing. But honestly, what would have happened had that vote gone through? Right, and we will never ever get it back.
Can I also call time out on one thing? It's really important. The conversation of recapture is one that we can debate, heartily in the pros versus cons. Part of what I had to do throughout the course of this last year is dive into the numbers, and there's a couple of facts that are important regardless of how you feel about recapture. One, our deficit is in part due to recapture, but not in whole. We overspent by tens of millions of dollars. Two, after Harvey, the law allowed for a 1-year reprieve from recapture payments. We're still projecting $200 million deficits. So recapture is definitely a part, but part of what I would, on a very personal level, just me talking, I encourage you to remain focused on what is in HISD's control. And what I can tell you is there is a lot of where that spending is coming from that has nothing to do with edicts from Austin, but that are decisions that are being made by board members and by folks at Hagen White.
That are not responsible. But you guys, I want to try to rein it in a little bit.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, okay.
What's very confusing to me is why we gave teacher pay raise of $50 million, and now we're about to cut a whole bunch of teachers out of their jobs.
And that is exactly, so all those questions are to people who are not here, for sure. And that, and not that our teachers didn't deserve a pay raise, I think I haven't had one in 5 years, but, right, at the timing is probably not the most appropriate time. But, so what's important for us right now, because they are trying to push this as fast as they can.
What board member is advocating for magnet schools? Is it anyone saying that, hey, this is what I'm about, and this is my agenda?
Wait, what do you mean by for magnet schools?
Because, right, so who's saying that? Jalonda Jones, prime example, is totally against it. She's ready to sue TA for recapture.
So the whole premise is, the whole proposal is to change the magnet program. So this is what the whole proposal is about. They want to, and they haven't addressed that. We got a glimpse of this proposal that we weren't supposed to see. They have not touched magnet yet. They've only spoken about the budget. But in the proposal, they want to take away some magnet programs, Vanguard, some fine arts magnets, and recreate the same sort of magnets in every quadrant. And so what's important is there is a lot to discuss. And there's a lot of information, and there's a lot of people who have lots of good background information on this that we are not experts on, which is why we're so happy that you guys are a part of it. But what we have to remember is we have to move quickly to make a difference. And the one way we've made a difference is with media. And by having media there, I mean, even at the Frank Black town hall, she brought Mr. Barajas there because she knew she was going to have some tough questions to answer.
He just did such a fine job.
He looked nice. He looked nice.
So, and just to let you know, I mean, his experience, he was in San Marcos School District. He's used to an FTE system. We are a much larger school district. Exactly. So what we have to focus on now, we can discuss this and we'll have plenty of time to discuss it. We know that there are things that should be changed. Recapture is a part of our long-term goal, and hopefully everyone will keep continuing to be a part of it. And it's not tons of work if we do break up and really reach out to all the people who say that they're interested in participating to make some changes. So, yes.
I wanted to address your question. I don't know if that was like a rhetorical question or a real question, but for anyone who has that same question, we don't know. I mean, clearly there are some that are very outspoken against these programs. There are some that do not respond to Twitter, email, or any kind of media. There are new people like Lyra and Santos that Daigar is kind of telling, but we don't know. And part of, I think, what you'll see here is figuring out how do we get engaged with those trustees, how do we understand what their vision is, and how can we sway them along with us.
And if that's something you're interested in, you'll see you're going to have the ability to whatever you feel, something that you're passionate about, there will be a committee for that you will be able to gravitate to that committee and help in that area.
And
that's what you're going to see.
Responsibility will be like in an organized form to report back to the group so that we will just be more organized in our efforts.
Can I ask a quick question in relation to what you had just said? I'm sorry, I know that you're trying to move things along, but in terms of, wanting to know how trustees feel, and I know that there's a lot of us who don't quite understand where they are. A trustee is supposed to represent their constituents. Mm-hmm. And, on this Facebook page, there's 2,200 people on there, 2,200, 2,500 people. And I read about all these people who are in these different districts where their trustee is completely against what they're voicing. Right. So where is there an opportunity? Because I think that's a very important part that needs to be projected to the media.
The way, because right now they have an agenda and they want to pass it, and our voice is small. The only way that we really get a response and a change of response is in numbers. And so Santos made a response finally because power of numbers, and she was quiet for a long time, and she scheduled a town hall. These trustees were voted in, and our recourse right now is our voice. And so I think it's real important for us to mobilize, but in an organized fashion, to try to make these changes, because us discussing them not being representative of us is not going to change.
But what happens is, and I've been battling them for, I mean, I hate to say it, I was part of the parent visionaries a long time ago that helped elect Rhonda.
Right.
So, you know, if we have people in different districts, I mean, I'm in District 5. They hate District 5. The people, I mean, they think that, well, that's a very wealthy district, you guys get everything. So, and it doesn't matter if we come out in droves.
Well, and I think what's important, what is important for that.
People in those districts need to be able to.
Right, just one person coming from that district, and we cannot come forward and say, I'm just for my district.
Yeah.
Right.
The most brilliant thing that this group has done is treat this as an issue for the entire district and the entire city. And if it seems like a balkanized debate, that fundamentally backfires.
Right.
It needs to be a collective one. Your board member is accountable, and you should not be afraid to reach out to them and say, we need you to hold this meeting. That doesn't mean you also can't engage in the conversations with other trustees.
Right.
One of the best demonstrations I've ever seen of this was when my trustee was first appointed, and the week after I announced my candidacy, there was a town hall called that the superintendent came to, and it was for District 6 schools. But actually the people who came in droves were from Parker, which is nowhere near District 6. They knew that, but that was because they were talking about magnet changes, and that was where they would have their audience to be heard by the superintendent. You are part of the district, and trustees serve the entire district. They literally take an oath for the entire city. Right?
So and that is our goal. That is our ultimate goal.
How do we, because this, okay, what I keep hearing from HISD, this is not representative of the ethnic diversity of HISD.
So this is what I'm going to do at 5:45. We're moving towards that.
Okay.
We're going to break into subcommittees for each group. You're going to make action points for your group. Jennifer's going to talk about that quickly. And then what you do is you mobilize, and we reach out. We've got a couple people who are representative of IR schools who are on our site quietly right now. And hopefully if they see what they like, those numbers increase. And it's important for us to play a role in that. And Leah went to the Cullen Town Hall a few days ago and spoke with the principal. And that's how we have to fight this fight together, because they are pitching us against each other.
And just in the spirit of that, could I suggest a subcommittee that is focused on that kind of building of a coalition?
We do have one.
Oh, there is?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an IR committee. Okay.
We have another question.
Okay, with IR.
Come on.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so you know what? There's a subcommittee for
When
it.
you say subcommittee, I understand subcommittee, but if everybody doesn't understand IR, I feel like we're going down the wrong direction.
Well, no, but that's the goal of that
The reason
committee,
why I
to educate the rest of the group on
The
it.
reason why I say that is because if I look in this room, I don't see too many African Americans. Let's really just truly be honest.
And we're working
No,
towards
no,
that.
I'm not
That's our
blaming anybody. I'm saying that how can we truly say, let's put a subcommittee together with people that's not willing to come? Let's really be honest. When we think of our,
You have to start from somewhere.
no,
You have to start
I'm not
from somewhere.
fighting you. What I'm saying is,
You have to educate them, is what you're saying.
right, and if we sit here and we just say magnet school,
But that's not what we're saying.
No, listen. So when you say IR schools, there's no one in this room that represents that. And you say subcommittee.
Yes, there is.
No,
Yes, there is.
hold on.
There is someone
But
who
when I say
represents
that,
that.
when I
You
think
cannot
of,
make assumptions.
when I think of the school of that's down the street in 3rd Ward, Texas, Blackshear, and we say, hey, we have a problem. If I'm a parent sitting over there, I don't want to hear you guys speak because you got yours. And that's the mentality that they have. And if you
Okay,
don't know that,
so I
trying to
understand your
bridge
point,
that.
but we really, look, this is what I'm gonna say. I
how do you
understand.
bridge that with a person that has $1 million versus
So
a person
listen,
with no
so
money?
the way you
How do
bridge, you
you
have to
bridge
start
that gap?
somewhere. You can't just complain about it, we have to start somewhere.
Let us
So
get up,
we-
let us get
Let us
further. Let us get further. Let us get further.
Let us start with it. At the beginning is us saying that we recognize that there's a discrepancy, and we want to try to help repair it.
How?
But
If you don't know how?
That's what we're gonna figure out.
Guys, I don't think it's acceptable that we just alienated some.
Right, no.
But he's making it difficult.
He's trying to have a voice, we let everybody else speak, but we can.
But we can't get any further because he's challenging us.
What I'm saying is, you have a platform.
But you're not letting us get
What I'm saying is, you have a platform, which I get and I respect. That's why I'm here. You have this. Well, when I think about my brown and black kids that's going to school that can't read in the 2nd grade, this isn't nowhere near helping them. And if you don't know that, of course, you can say, yeah, my kid goes to our school. Yes, you're right. But what about that kid's parent that has to work 3 jobs and can't get here?
Don't all engage one person. You don't relax. Let's have a one-on-one conversation.
What you're trying to do.
We know what the will of the group is. Relax.
I'm not talking about this group.
We
I'm
don't-
talking about HISD.
I know, but we don't need 18 people engaging one person.
Please
don't
leave.
I understand what you're saying. HISD as a whole. Magnet School doesn't make up HISD as a whole. When you think about what I'm trying to get you to understand is, this is what you guys know. We know you know this. Just like my kid, I understand she's in private school because of the situation in public school. But you don't. It's like me asking you guys.
Help us.
And that's what I'm trying to do. But you guys aren't listening to, y'all ready to go through a meeting just to get through a meeting.
No, we're not.
But
Let's get to it right now. Let's skip forward. We want to make the trustee for your school accountable to make sure that you get what you need.
Guys, everybody else had a chance to speak and nobody else was interrupted as many times as he was. That's
Actually,
all I
it's
have
not
to
fair.
say about this. He did not listen to anybody. But you got up and walked out, and that's fine, but he was saying stuff that, this is all planned, we haven't got to the next line, and that's what she keeps trying to say, is that is where we're going. She hasn't been able to continue this meeting because of all the questions and the conversation. He has been more than everyone else. And she has said over and over, that's where we're going. We want to hear, but we've got to continue to get there.
So I understand what his frustration is. He sees the word magnet. He sees, I saw when he walked in, I knew who he was, and I know when he joined the group, and I was happy that he came. When he, it's probably going to be better on an individual basis because I think he thinks that I'm just trying to go through a meeting to get through a meeting, and that wasn't the case. But he doesn't feel like he can empathize with his situation, but he doesn't know everyone's situation. And I tried not to interrupt him. I did let him speak a lot for that specific reason. So hopefully, Tim, on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah, let's let them. They're doing
That is
good.
not, that is not what I wanted to do.
I probably
just
all
question.
recognize this and move on because there is a lot here, and there may be a time for questions at the end.
So there is a lot to go through, but we're starting with a premise that you guys have already decided on. So on this, I do agree with him, that there are some implicit decisions that have been made already as to what the directions are that will have the consequences that haven't been discussed or agreed upon. So that's a little bit, as far as I'm concerned, it's a little bit problematic. My kids are not in an IR school, and not all schools that need support are IR. So for example, just in saying that we're bridging out to schools that are IR.
And that's not the only,
I understand, I'm using it as an example.
Right.
I appreciate all the work that you guys have done, and I really understand what he's talking about. That's why, I've been communicating with Ruby. I feel a little bit in a paradoxical situation.
Right.
I'm a parent, my kids are not going to their zone school or zone to Parker, they're going to O'Hara because of the Magnet and Vanguard programs, but I also work for the district and I serve a population that rarely gets addressed. And you guys have made lists of what needs to be addressed, where...
We've made lists of what needs to be addressed to stop this budget proposal, and that's it. Not to save our schools, not to only preserve our schools.
So can we step back and start with that premise?
That's what we're doing. That is exactly what we are doing. Our main goal is to slow down this budget proposal. Our long-term goals are to figure out what we can do to improve all the schools of HISD as a community. And I wanted to make a point of saying that in the beginning for that specific reason. Because none of us know each other's experiences, and it can't just be based on what you see physically.
Can I just, quick question, does anyone have any experience running like a parliament type situation so we don't alienate someone who's speaking? There was a lot of interrupting, I don't know who started it, but I just don't want to have a repeat of this. I don't know how to do it, but if someone needs to go up there and, you know.
We may have to
do
that.
that.
Well,
So
and the problem with that, which is probably why the board meetings are run.
Okay.
So, okay, and then we'll get into another. Anyways, so with all due respect, that was not how we wanted it to go, and hopefully he will still remain a member of this group, but we still can't lose our focus, and I'll reach out to him after this meeting to see if we can communicate on a one-on-one basis. But moving forward, that may be what we need to do. So our first goal, our main goal is to slow down this current budget proposal as it is presented. That's our goal. So we want to push the petition. And second, we want to increase awareness of the issues at hand, increase key stakeholder and public awareness of the magnitude of the HISD proposed changes in order to influence board decisions at the March 8th board meeting. Reach out to our IR schools, provide outreach to our IR schools to ensure proposal outcomes are favorable towards the success of all schools. And that is included because that's part of this proposal that's been introduced. And fourth, continue to identify key stakeholders. Already identified key stakeholders included but are not limited to trustees, PTOs, PTAs, city government, and state legislature. So our main goal is to use the media and our voices to put our point across to our trustees and to our government and state officials that we are not happy with the proposal that we're receiving as is. We don't think it's in the best interest of all of HISD, and that we think that there needs to be more thought, time put into making any changes to the entire school system, especially compared to what they're proposing to us. And now Jennifer's going to come up and talk to you about the subcommittees to try to achieve these short-term goals, and then we'll break up into groups and discuss it, and then we can go from there.
Thanks, Latrice. Before we get to that, if you want to flip back real quick, we did want to bring attention. Everybody has a lot that they want to be able to say. We need to get beyond this room also. These are dates that we have a voice that we can get out there. Everybody needs to put March 8th on their calendar. Get your babysitters and get everything lined up for the board meeting so that we're able to be there and have a strong presence. It'll go really long. Andy. So,
just know if you would like to speak at a board meeting, you do have to sign up ahead of time to sign up.
How far ahead of time?
Like 10 a.m. on Wednesday.
Yeah.
10 what?
10 a.m. by Wednesday.
I will say, when I spoke at the last board meeting and they called me, they said that preference is given to people that haven't spoken, in the last 6 months?
Right, they changed the rules at the previous meeting where if you spoke previously, I mean, the rules have changed.
Because they don't want to hear you.
Right, and you can't, I don't think you can pass minutes along any longer, can you? It used to be that you could pass minutes to a particular speaker. I don't think you can do that anymore.
1 minute.
It's 1 minute now.
Yeah.
And you can't have spoken within the last 6 months.
So, to your question, Christy, the lady that talked to me said that generally they go in the order that you sign up in, which would be beneficial if you don't want to stay there until 11 o'clock. That being said, I signed up like 15 people before Latrice, and Latrice went about 10 people ahead of me. So, who really knows?
But you don't even know where you're signed up either, so you might as well be there from the start.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
There's another point, which is if you sign up to speak on an agenda point and the hearing of the citizens, you get 5 minutes.
Yes.
And you go first.
Right.
So.
Have they released the agenda? Do we know?
But it has to
They
be
released
before.
the
You have
agenda.
something to say about that agenda.
Sign up on agenda and the
Gender
personal.
review, that's very important for us to attend.
And once it's on the agenda.
Which one, Lily? Gender review. It's on the
Gender review.
27th of February.
On the HISD portal, the board services page has a sign up for hearing of citizens. There's 2 options you can do there, either for individual agenda items or for the general hearing of citizens, which happens at the end, kind of a catch-all. So I spoke last month, and I purposefully identified it was item I-4 because I wanted to speak to the performance audit and I wanted it to come early enough in the process that it can be heard. And if there are multiple agenda items that are being voted on that are relevant, you can identify both and they will move at times. So that's all done on the web for the HISD.
And they usually post the agenda, was it like a week before?
Sorry, no procedural point. So just to make sure people understand something, as the president of the board, Rhonda, has the ability to pull agenda items, okay? So she literally controls what can be talked about, what can be voted upon. So performance audit comes up and she doesn't want it, she can pick it off the agenda.
So if you sign up to speak, do they then bump you automatically to the HOC, or do they just take you off?
Well, if the agenda item is pulled, your time on that particular item is pulled.
But a cluster of board members can remove.
That's correct.
So that's a procedural. If you get 3 board members that are saying, despite the fact that the president has pulled this, I feel strongly that this needs to remain, they can insert it.
So 3 and not a quorum?
No, 3.
3.
Yes.
If we can figure out 3.
Okay, can y'all flip to the next slide? We're gonna get to the teams. Okay, so basically what we have coming up in a few weeks, March 8th, is going to be the board meeting. And so we want to be able to get our voices heard as much as we can until then. So what is the best way to do this? We tried to break it out into kind of subcategories. People who are vested in trying to figure out the best way to get the board's attention. If you're really good at Twitter, things like that. If you're really good at marketing, that type of area. We need people that are vested in focusing their efforts on that. We're also going to have an outreach committee to get to the PTOs, PTAs, and parents, and we really hope that you will help guide that committee to help us figure out what is the best way to inform people that this is going on. At my son's elementary, I can tell you that 2 out of 3 people don't even know that anything's going on. They have no clue. They think it doesn't affect them. People have no clue. We have the IR outreach committee that Leah will be leading up. City officials outreach. This is not just an HISD issue. This is going to impact the entire city of Houston. The city of Houston officials need to be keyed into it and understand that this will help shape the city. State legislative and agency outreach. This obviously has more of a long-term reach. However, this is the underlying root of many of these issues, and that's something that we will be working on as well. So those are kind of our outreach committees that we're going to break out into and say, okay, how can we get to these people as efficiently and quickly as possible? Then also we have a committee whose main focus is going to be on the HISD budget review. Going through the detail and also requesting the appropriate information from the board. And Amy and Heather are leading that up. And then this last category is media. And basically the media, everyone will pull from the media team. The media team, at its core, hopefully will consist of people who are committed. Either they already know people in the media or they've worked with the media before and kind of have some inroads on how to best get the media's attention. And then as other subcommittees need media attention, they'll draw from them. And so with that being said, we wanted to spend the next 20 to 30 minutes breaking up with these separate teams to try to best figure out how we can go from here forward. Latrice.
She just went outside.
Okay, so Latrice and I will be working on Board of Trustees outreach under Tracy, who couldn't be here. She was camping with her scouts this weekend, but Tracy will be heading that up. Then PTO, PTA, parent, and teacher outreach. I'm also on that committee. IR outreach, led by Leah, standing right here. City officials, Leah Salinas, who's also outside. Erin, raise your hand. She's going to be helping Rochelle Park with the state legislative and agency outreach. Then Amy, Heather, and Christy on the budget committee, and then Latrice again with Christy and Leah Salinas on the media. So, Andy?
Can I make a suggestion too on the city outreach? I think someone else that should be very important involved in this is the Greater Houston Partnership. There hasn't been Greater Houston Partnership.
Can you give a brief description of what that is? I'm not even
So Greater Houston Partnership is basically they're the leaders of the business community which looks for different things which benefits the overall Houston. So, you know, Chamber of Commerce is involved with them. But they have March section that has to do with public education. I'm sorry?
Yeah, Ed. we should get
Andy,
Ed
and what
Klein.
is Puddles for Public Schools doing?
I'm sorry?
Puddles for Public Schools.
I haven't heard anything about this.
I think we need to check it.
I was going to suggest a great
Right.
partnership, so I was wondering who was handling the outreach with the corporations. So I was speaking with one of the vice presidents at the company I work for, kind of let me know what was going on, because of the feeder pattern, like for engineering from the oil company and so forth. And again, he has his kids were educated in Woodlands, and he's 60 years old, right? So part of it, but he was very curious.
Right.
So it needs to be a
The reason why I bring
subcommittee.
this up is because there has never been a bond passed without the Grand Houston Partnership being part of that. So,
Juliet's been at the ability for the city now, and she's been very much involved in the relationship between the district, the city, and Greater Houston. So they have some programs that they've started working on last year. She's growing a little bit.
Well, Ed Klein.
Juliet's the patch.
Thank you.
No, Juliet's the patch.
Juliet,
But my
everyone
point
was
is
on
that really you can't say that one without the other, because the two are kind of married together in that sense. So I would suggest that if you can get in and start talking to the committee members of Great Houston Partnership.
Well, Ed Klein goes to Mr. Paul of Mike Linsberg for now Sioux Dye Guards meetings.
Do you want me to reach out to Ed?
Do we want to go ahead and?
One can you just tweak to these subcommittees to capture what I hear happening being in the room? If I can get a sentence out of my mouth. Maybe the city officials outreach becomes city officials / like corporate organizations.
Okay.
Outreach.
Yep. These are not
All
set in
these
stone
ideas
by
that are
any
getting
means.
generated can funnel into that subcommittee.
Mhm.
And then, I mean, I would just suggest perhaps IR outreach is outreach both to IR schools and to aligned organizations.
And to what?
Other aligned organizations, other groups that
Got it.
exist in the city of Houston that are working to support those schools.
We did have about 4 other committees, including a Spanish outreach. There was a corporate outreach, and there were at least 2 more that we just said we didn't quite have enough man and woman power yet, and then we also wanted to really focus on this March meeting.
And we would
So
incorporate that in the
Roll
long
them
term.
into, that's what I'm saying, like you roll them into the IR and then the city officials, and you
We
can
got
capture a lot
together
of
earlier that, especially the corporate outreach, we made a statement at the recent state of the schools, but.
Yeah. You're sort of in the day to start gathering those. We certainly wanted to miss the base to make sure.
So right before we break up, I wanted to just take a couple minutes because I have a loud voice and I'll keep talking until everyone can hear. My name's Tim Welton and I have been working at Frank Black for the last 6 years.
Could you come on camera?
Yeah, go ahead.
I worked with Rhonda Skiller Jones to get the Vanguard Card designation for Frank Black. And my background is in law and in politics and in education and in community organizing, and I've been doing all of those things for a very long time. So this is awesome. This is what humanity is supposed to be about, people getting together collectively and doing things. But I also would say, given my background experience specifically with this district, but also just in general in terms of the way things work, is that I would like to share a couple of tips that I think are important as we go forward. Number one, we're an assemblage of lots of different people and lots of different perspectives. We have this has done a really fantastic job. These people have put this together. This is among the different efforts I've been part of. This is one of the best, most quickly assembled. This is awesome. This is beyond awesome. But we need to also be aware that we are all individuals trying to do something collectively, so we're all going to have a little bit of diverse background. The other thing that is more important than that is that none of us can stand up here and pretend to have solutions to any of these things, right? So we need to make sure that when we're going forward, that we're not opining that we've got all this figured out, but also, equally importantly, we need to make sure that we're not saying that other people haven't figured it out, and they're not trying. And one of the least productive things we can do, and it is very, very important, is we should not talk in language that says, these people don't care about these people. Everyone who's spending any amount of time in any room like this, or watching on Facebook, or writing anything, or doing anything, cares deeply about our kids. Because the vast majority of people are not engaged. And that includes everybody. It includes all the school board members who get paid zero, not a dime, and they spend thousands and thousands and thousands of hours trying to make sure that we're doing right by our kids. Let us not go forward as a group and ever again question the motivation of a member of the school board. If y'all want that job, step up and take it, because it's free. You get nothing for it. You get nothing but heartache, and it's thankless. And those people care deeply about their kids, and all of our kids collectively, or they wouldn't be doing it. And I know many of them, and I don't know all of them, but I've had the privilege of knowing dozens and dozens of elected officials. The vast majority were very well motivated. And also, let's don't speak in they're doing nothing, or they're all for this, or they're all for that. It's just not true. So let's don't be an organization that goes and throws a bunch of poor discourse into what's already a very complicated issue. All right? Everybody wants what's best for the kids. Everybody does. That's just a starting point. That doesn't mean that their plans are going to end up being the best result for the kids, but their aspiration is that. And I also tell you, I know for absolute certainty that there is no intractable member of this board. There's not a single person on this board who's made up their mind and is pushing this agenda. That's not what's going on. A tremendous number of people, and I've talked to them, and if you don't believe that's true, you're welcome to talk to me about the specific conversations we've had. There's a tremendous amount of volume of information that's out there with a lot of, I won't use the right term, there were a lot of not well thought out things that are all being proposed at the same time. And everyone knows a generality, a feeling of what they want to achieve, right? Which is they would like better of this. All of us do. But no one has proposed what better of this is. And no one's given any specific programmatic, detailed suggestions as what's to happen. The best thing that we're doing is to slow it down so there can be a thoughtful, deliberative, community-based, input-driven, fact-driven decision being made. And that's where we're putting the brakes on, and it's really good. But the best way to put the brakes on is to simply say, on all these proposals, we need to really know what they are. They can't be notions. This is a $2 billion institution with 200,000 kids at stake. They can't be notions. They have to be real proposals. And that's where our good is the best done, and this is a fantastic organizing unit. I'm very happy to be part of it, and I'll do anything I can to be helpful. But I will tell you that it's so counterproductive for us to go out and start talking about individual people who've already decided things which is not true, and people having motivations which are not good, which is not true. We should be raising the caliber of the debate, which we already are, and we should keep that trajectory. Because collectively, we can figure a lot of this stuff out in a really positive way and do tremendous things for all of our kids. That's my thought.
Thank you, Tim.
And so guys, moving forward, like I appreciate you guys all coming out. It's tough, and I appreciate him coming out, and we'll reach out to him. And we will, I mean, we're new to this. We've had our heads in the sand for a while, and they're out, and we are just, there's obviously a lot of people who are interested in taking care of our schools and our community, and it's not going to be easy because there's people who've been fighting for this way before we realized what was going on. So it's heartfelt. So with that being said, we're going to break into our subcommittees.
Can you tell everybody like where to go for the
Yes.
committee?
Well, I think we're going to Bernice, for the subcommittees, are we breaking up in time here?
This concludes the live feed.